Hey everybody, it's Henry from GamesRadar, and I am so pleased and proud to be here with WWE Hall of Famer Jerry the King Lawler. How you doing?
Henry, I'm doing great, and I'm doing even better now that I'm on the air with you. You can't believe how long I've waited for this moment. Henry, I'm on TV with Henry.
Oh, thank you so much.
Sir.
Okay, so the big deal of this one is, or tonight anyway, is 30 years of WrestleMania mode, and you and JR called a bunch of classic matches. Was there any one that you were really looking forward to calling, putting your own personal stamp on as an?
Well, you know what, Henry, I get asked on almost a daily basis, what's your favorite match that you ever commentated on or anything like that? And especially in this year's, in the 2K14 with the 30 years of WrestleMania mode, there's 30 years of WrestleMania main events in this game that people can relive and replay. And I've talked to JR about this, and JR is a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan, as I am as well, and JR's favorite WrestleMania match involves Stone Cold Steve Austin. But mine still goes back to a WrestleMania in Toronto, Canada, when we had a match that probably, at least I never thought we'd ever see. I never thought it would ever take place. It was almost, the way I could compare it was if you saw Mike Tyson against Muhammad Ali, both in their primes. And, it's a match that could never take place. But we had The Rock against Hulk Hogan in that match in Toronto, Canada. And to me, it was such a big deal. I mean, these were probably the two most popular WWE superstars in history. And for these guys to go against each other in a match at WrestleMania, it was, who are the fans going to be for? Who are the fans going to respond the most to? How is Hulk and The Rock going to respond to, the fans taking one or the other sides over the other? So it was a fantastic match. It went back and forth. The fans even switched alliances, during the match. The Rock went from being a fan favorite to being booed. Hulk Hogan went from being booed to being a fan favorite. It was crazy, but it was, to me, my favorite match ever to call, and that match is in this game, and everybody can relive it and replay it.
No, I know. Just from watching that at home, the audience was just, the reaction was insane.
It was great.
So also, it was a while before you actually wrestled in a WrestleMania match. How important was it for you to get, your Mania moment?
Well, I can't even put into words how big a deal that was to me, because, it was WrestleMania 27, so I had been with the WWE for almost 20 years before I actually got to compete in a match. I've had a long, storied wrestling career, but that was the one moment that had been so elusive, that had eluded me. And it just came about. It just happened. It wasn't anybody sat down and said, "Hey, let's give Jerry Lawler his big WrestleMania moment." It was just the chemistry that happened, that just evolved between Michael Cole and I, that it worked into a match, and they just, they had to have it. And so to have Stone Cold Steve Austin turn out to be our special referee and to have a match against Michael Cole at WrestleMania 27, to me that made it my favorite WrestleMania, but not necessarily my favorite WrestleMania match.
So you've been lending your voice to the games for a while now. So how would you say the process has evolved over time?
Well, I don't know if the process of putting our voices on the games has evolved, because it's pretty much still, you go into a recording studio. A lot of people don't realize that even though it sounds like Michael Cole and JR and I are all working together right there at the broadcast booth, we had to do all of our voices separate, because that was just the way it had to be done for the video game. So it involved, and as it has since day one for the video games, going into a studio, reading lines, ad-libbing, and coming up with all of these lines, thousands at a time. But what has really evolved and gotten so much better are the graphics and the game itself. Just and watch. I was just in the back playing. I was Andre the Giant. My girlfriend was Dolph Ziggler, and it was almost as if you're watching an actual match on television. The graphics were so phenomenal, and the moves and all of this sort of stuff. And then, of course, I hearing myself in the background. Then all of a sudden, I saw myself sitting at the announce table, which was really cool. But That's what's really changed by leaps and bounds. And this, the 2K sports, these people are just fantastic. And I mean, this is without a doubt the best WWE video game of all time. And I look forward to such a, it was such a bright future with the WWE working with 2K Sports that I think they're just going to get better as years go on.
Awesome. Oh, one last big fan question for me. You have great chemistry with JR and with Cole and JBL, but I really liked when you would commentate with Mr. McMahon.
Oh my God!
Do you ever think just one more time with him, just get him to put on the bow tie again and call one more match?
I would love that. You're right. That was some of the most entertaining and fun commentating that I ever did was when Vince and I worked as a team. He was so fun to make fun of, and he took it so well. I mean, he used to try to help me convince people that he wore a bad toupee, when of course he didn't. I mean, every week I'd make some sort of joke about his toupee. I'll never forget say, Vince, the toupee this week, the chin strap is a dead giveaway. Or say, hey, that's a better toupee. It's got artificial dandruff. All those sort of things. And he took it in stride, and he had some great lines himself. And yeah, I would love for Vince to come back in the booth and do that one more time. I would love it.
Well, I'll cross my fingers on that. But all right, thank you very much, Jerry.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Great, thanks.